For years now, we've been following the odyssey that has been the Ritz Carlton condominium projects, luxury condominium projects, unfortunately, in downtown Portland. Well, now we've got a fire sale going, a absolute fire sale, 50% off. We've got a blue light special in aisle 3 in Portland. Let's get into it. Here we go. If you're not familiar with the Ritz Carlton condo projects, let me walk you through just a little bit of their marketing online. Hey, you can go ahead and reserve a unit right here by clicking that button. Okay, so, there's one of their lobby rooms. It is an absolutely amazing inside and out building. It is a skyscraper. It is of the highest quality. And again, what I would say is it's in downtown Portland. We'll get to that. But keep in mind, all of this that you are about to see is in downtown Portland. And so, when you have a 50% off sale, there's a reason for that. Because just look at it. Just take a look through a handful of the photos they've got on their online website. All right. I mean, you got some massive views. You got some mountain views. Obviously, the finishes throughout are they're top of the line. It's $1 million project in downtown Portland. I mean, there aren't too many of these, and there's a reason for that, isn't there? This one was curious to me. You've got probably, what is that, a king-size bed? I think that's bigger than a queen. And then you've got like a full, or almost looks like a twin there. I'm not really sure what's going on there, but whatever, right? I mean, look at this. You've got big views, and these are anywhere from a 1-bedroom up to I think it was up to a 3-bedroom. To give you an idea of what we're working with on the inside of the Ritz Carlton condos, here's I think that's their lobby area. I mean, it's absolutely, here's an interior shot of one of the units. I mean, they're amazing. I mean, the finishes are just absolutely top line. The kitchen appliances, big, huge floor to ceiling windows, massive views, because it's the tallest thing, as we're going to see in just a second. It's the tallest thing because it's taller than just about anything else in downtown in this particular area of Portland. Let's keep going. Hey, you get an idea. Look at those ceilings. Those are massive, massive ceilings. Got some views out to the river. This is a kind of elevation higher up in the project. Look at the walkout balcony on this one. So you get the idea. It's literally Ritz Carlton in downtown Portland. Here's a kind of a walking tour. This was taken a few years back, but what I want you to see here is just kind of scale from the street level. Let's take a peek.
After it opened in 2023,
so take a peek. I mean, that thing is just head and shoulders and waist above everything else because it's such a massive, high quality luxury condominium. And that's the problem, right? Somebody thought in 2018, this is going to be the greatest thing ever, or probably 2016 when it was in the design phase. Hey, what could go wrong with building, $3.5 million condo units in downtown Portland? It's going to be great, right? Greatest thing ever.
Vendor on the building is saying that it wants to.
Wild architecture, right? Wild architecture. All of a sudden you kind of go off at an angle and you come back, and who knows how many floors it is, but it is just absolutely massive. So the developer that built the Ritz Carlton units essentially went under. The other portion of the project, this thing's got so many moving parts. We're not going to focus on that. We're just going to focus on the actual units themselves. But ownership has gone back to Ready Capital. Ready Capital has said, all right, we're going to get a new marketing team. And this new marketing team, as of this year, 2026, not 2016, has decided, okay, well, everything sells at a price, right? What is that price for these condos in downtown Portland? Half. And a few of them are even more than half off. Let's keep going.
Take ownership of the building. That's because Block 216, which has offices, condos, the Ritz Carlton Portland, the lender says that the building is severely underperforming.
And to kind of give you an idea of just how big this is, relative to everything in its surrounding area, not from ground level, here's another marketing, probably a drone video, that just shows how this thing just absolutely sticks out. Yeah. I mean, look at everything else around it. Not there. I mean, it's beautiful, beautiful building. Absolutely state of the art. Just, I mean, look at those views. So to put this in geographic perspective of where this is, I was in Portland last summer for basically the riots happening at the ICE facility, which is South Portland. And I walked back, and it was, I don't know, a 45-minute walk from where the ICE facility was. I walked back to my hotel, which was a Hilton, and it was, I don't know, 6 blocks south of what you're looking at here. But here is the Ritz Carlton, Portland. Here's Ritz Carlton, Portland, okay? You got Pioneer Courthouse. You got a bunch of homeless in this area, and it's spotty. It goes from block to block. Like literally, you've got the Ritz Carlton here, and at about midnight, maybe 12:30, it could have been 1 a.m. I don't really remember. I decided I wanted to go get a snack, and I didn't want to get a snack from the Hilton shop, whatever they had. And so I walked to Pete's Market on 4th Avenue in downtown Portland at somewhere after midnight. And it was it was one of the most dystopian mini-mart experiences I have ever had. There were literally zombies at the counter, zombies walking around. There were a whole bunch of people smoking drugs right here. This is literally what it looks like outside. And this is a mini-mart that caters basically to the after hours crowd. Let's just say that. And so you are literally, you're 1, 2, 3, you're 5 blocks. You are just over a quarter mile away from one of the roughest mini marts, in my opinion, in my limited scope in downtown Portland. And it's one of the few that's 24 hours. And there's a reason for that, because the streets of Portland in this area are not, you wouldn't want to walk around by yourself if you were a female at night, just throughout this area. I mean, there are security guards. Granted, there's security guards, but there's also just a bunch of rando homeless drug addicts just doing crazy stuff, wild stuff. So you've got, you've got the courthouse here. And then during the Summer of Love, this is how close we are. So, just to the north and west, you've got the Ritz Carlton right here. And then literally a handful of blocks to the south and east, you have got Lonsdale Square, Chapman Square, Terry Shrunk Plaza. And this is where all of the Summer of Love riots happened, because you've got the Justice Building and you've got the Federal Building, both right here. So you're a handful of blocks. You are in the middle of just absolute craziness. And then we've got this, got this project, this condo project that somebody thought, hey, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. We'll have no problem selling this. And then the market changed. I mean, it changed, downtown Portland's never been perfect, but you had homelessness absolutely explode. You had Measure 110, which decriminalized hard drugs. You had the CDC during the pandemic say, don't sweep any of the homeless encampments. You had crime absolutely skyrocket. And so you've got a problem where you've only got like 11 of these units of 130 something units sold. And the lender is basically saying, let's get these things moved. Let's get these things moved. So let's take a peek. I want to get you down to here. Have you ever watched a gleaming new skyscraper rise against the skyline full of promise, only to see it sit mostly empty a couple of years later? Well, there's a reason this one in particular, it's having happened what it's having happened. And we're going to look at an appraiser's opinion as well. The rise and stall of Portland's tallest luxury tower, 460 feet tall. Absolutely mammoth. Out of the more 130 units, only a handful have changed hands since the building opened. I mean, it's got to be an absolute ghost town. Here's the numbers. 1-bedroom units that originally asked between 1.2 and 1.7 now start around $600,000. That is a haircut, my friends. That is a haircut, right? 2-bedroom residences, once priced at 2.1 to 2.6, are being offered near $1 million. Now, here's what I would say. 1-bedroom for 600. Okay. 1-bedroom units are going to be small units. I mean, that is so far beyond the realm of what you're going to find in the rest of downtown Portland. And 2-bedroom units at $1 million, that is still stratosphere, right? Absolutely tippy top. Will this move the needle? Don't really know, because we don't have any real comparable sales. We certainly don't have another Ritz Carlton, project to look at data and go, For those of you who aren't familiar with who I am, I'm a 30-year appraiser, designated managing broker, and owner of a real estate brokerage. I've earned the Appraisal Institute's SRA designation and also the AIRRS. You don't care what those are, but people in the appraisal world, they're just like, oh, that's the greatest thing ever. Those are designations, right? Larger 3-bedroom units, previously listed as high as 3.3, have come down to approximately $1.6 million. I mean, talk about a haircut. These aren't minor adjustments or limited time promotions. They represent a fundamental repricing of what the market is apparently willing to bear for ultra premium downtown living in this particular location. Now, all of the marketing just focuses on how great this building is. Doesn't say a lot about what the street level conditions are like. And there's a reason for that. Yeah. Right around the Ritz, I don't think it's terrible. I think they keep it up pretty well. But you go a block, depending on where the homeless are and depending how the drugs are going, then street level conditions in retail in downtown Portland, it is a ghost town. It's a ghost town. I mean, it is like 1 out of every 10 storefronts. You're like, is that open? I think it is. There's stuff in there, but it's not open. It's hard to say, right? So what changed between planning and reality? Timing plays everything in development. This project broke ground during a period when many cities were betting heavily on downtown recovery. There's genuine excitement about attracting wealthy residents back to urban cores. They used to say that real estate was location, right? Yep. Okay. Now the mantra is more timing. When you get in, when you get out, right? Portland's tower was conceived as part of that wave. Developers and city leaders alike saw it as a catalyst, something that would draw high-income households and in turn support surrounding retail and hospitality. Well, that has not happened. And so, unfortunately, this has probably been one of the greatest examples, along with Big Pink, which had a, valuation drop when it sold for, I don't know, 80, 90% off. I can't remember the details. I've probably done 3 or 4 podcasts on that building. But, there's some buildings in downtown Portland that have gone for absolute fire sale. And they're big commercial buildings. And it's because there's such a high vacancy factor in the commercial office space sector in downtown Portland. But the landscape evolved quickly, remote work solidified, public safety concern grew in many urban centers. Oh, I love that. I just love that. What they're not saying is, hey, people are being accosted. You've got homeless people in tents all over. You've got open air drug use happening. You've got prostitution. You've got human trafficking. You've got garbage. You've got litter. You've got human feces. You've got drug paraphernalia. You've got needles. You've got rotten food all over Portland. You've got that all over Portland. So, yeah, that gets reduced down to public safety concerns. I've got concerns. There's a hypodermic needle over there, and there's a guy bent over. The 2 locations I showed to you where the Justice Building were and the Federal Building, there was a 7-Eleven. And, my famous story there is my son Brennan and I, after we went to the riots, because who doesn't want to go see a riot with their child, right? And we had to literally step over a man at the threshold of the door going into the now closed down 7-Eleven who had soiled himself. And it was just, my kid was probably, I don't know, 2020. He would have been 24 years old, and he was like, Dad, and he's a big kid. He was a big kid. And he was like, and he lives in Seattle. And downtown Portland was a whole nother level. It's gotten better, but it ain't great. Clearly, right? It ain't great. When a flagship luxury project can't move in inventory even at half off, it's worth asking what that says about buyer sentiment toward the entire downtown ecosystem. That's what we're talking about. What is it going to take to move these units? Is somebody coming in and buying $1 million 1-bedroom? Is this going to look like an absolute steal? No, 1-bedroom is 600, right? 1-bedroom is 600. Yeah. I don't think we're there yet. I don't think the numbers make sense. Do the numbers make sense at anything at this point in time? That's the big wonder, right? You've got 11 that have sold, but that doesn't mean anything because that's happened in the past. And that kind of happened as things were going. And then, basically sales have stopped. I don't think they've had a unit sell in a long, long time. The foreclosure backdrop. Yeah, there you got that foreclosure thing. Broader implications for urban luxury development. Well, it's that this particular unit, not unit, but project. It's not that downtown Portland lacks natural advantages. Portland has some beautiful geography. It's got the Willamette River. You've got views of the mountains. You got Mount Hood. I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal. But then when you're out on the street level, you're like, good Lord, am I going to make it through this dystopian nightmare? You know what I mean? And that's during the day, right? You're like, oh, what's going on here? Public safety concerns can overshadow even the finest architecture and finishes. 100%. Public instability matters to high net worth individuals choosing primary or secondary residences. Now, when this project came out of the ground, you had Tear Gas Ted was the mayor, and he was basically just in love with Antifa and allowed the riots to happen because that is what the big blue cities, they said this is the greatest thing ever. Minneapolis being one of them, Seattle being another. Retail and dining vibrancy directly impacts the appeal of urban living. And all of those businesses have gone out. You have very little left. It's basically just been cored out, hollowed out. I know there's a lot of talk about the Portland comeback, but if that were true, these units wouldn't be dropped 50% to get to affect a sale. School quality and tax considerations often influence long-term decisions. In Portland, you've got super high taxes and you've got minimal return for those taxes. You continually don't have enough cops, and the cops that you do have, they're not allowed to do their job. You've got leadership that has been, from a business standpoint, horrific. And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about spec condo units at the Ritz Carlton, the absolute utmost of high-end real estate, right? Could this create buying opportunities? I would say a hard maybe. Let's take a look at... We're going to go here. We're going to go here at the Portland Appraisal blog. Remember when I was babbling about the designations I have? Well, this blog is done appraisal deep dive, Ritz Carlton residences, Portland market resistance, and the principle of conformity in downtown condominiums, said like a true appraiser. This is from Abdul Malik. He is also a fellow SRA. I am not an active SRA because I'm not even really appraising right now, but he's got some interesting things to say, and we are going to skip down. There's a bunch of boring stuff. But here's the this is the kicker, right? Average close price of Portland downtown, 482 sales, a little over 400,000, right? Ritz Carlton, 11 sales, $1.5 million. We are almost 4 times higher than the average price of a condo in downtown Portland. Wildly overshot. Yeah, here it is, 3.7%. Average price per square foot, $372 for all of condo, right? For all of Portland, $372. $1,052, almost 3 times higher for the Ritz Carlton. Ritz required significantly large price reductions from original list to close. So here they're saying you're getting about, call it a 7% discount off list. So if something's sold for 300 grand, you're going to discount 7% off that, and that's what it's going to sell for. Somebody's going to offer something, and they're going to take it, and it's going to go for that. But here, and these numbers are absolutely whacked because this thing has been on the market so long and these units have been through so much nonsense that now these units are a liability because we don't know what they will sell for because we haven't had a price point for so long and the market has changed and things have really, really leveled out. And, when you've got a mayor and when you've got a governor that tells you everything is A-OK, hunky-dory, no reason for the feds to come in because you aren't basically protecting the ICE facility in your downtown core and you're letting a bunch of protesters run roughshod over your ICE facility, that doesn't exactly instill confidence to buyers who might want to live in one of these luxury units. Now, here's another one that's interesting. Average year built. 1982 is your average condo in Portland. This one, 2023. It's brand new. Imagine moving into a unit that's been there for 3 years. I think you might have a few adjustments to make when you first move in because nobody's living there, right? Nobody's living there. These things are, I don't want to say an albatross, but look at the average HOA monthly dues, $784, which is a lot for downtown units, $784. $2,400 per month in the Ritz Carlton. Ugh, right? Isn't that what your mortgage should be? Not at the Ritz. Putting on the Ritz, right? Putting on the Ritz. All right. So this is kind of boring stuff here, but this is the actual nuts and bolts of it. Appraiser perspective, the principle of conformity, meaning if you've got a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home and you build a 5-bedroom, 6-bath home in that community, you might have overshot it. And that's the principle of conformity. Things need to be kind of roughly similar because otherwise, if you got something super small or super big in comparison, those aren't going to go well. You're not going to, on the low end, you're not going to maximize your profit. On the high end, you might never sell it. And external obsolescence. The original pricing strategy for the Ritz Carlton appears to have been calibrated to the Pearl District, which is a wildly different neighborhood than the Portland downtown neighborhood. Pearl has demonstrated $7 million at the top end for condos. Probably not now. And by contrast, the highest condominium sale in the Portland neighborhood downtown is $3 million in 2017. That was absolute tippy top way back in the day. By listing units up to $7.85 million in the Ritz, the developer effectively positioned the project outside the neighbor's historical range of conformity. Oh, yeah, they took a gamble. Hey, this should work out. What could go wrong? Now we're looking at it. Principle of appraisal theory that holds value is maximized when a property aligns with prevailing market expectations in its location. Resulting resistance illustrates how site-specific external factors can override new construction. Okay, that's a positive. Branding, Ritz Carlton, doesn't get any better, right? And amenity premiums. You've got amenities that are absolute top of the line, but site-specific external factors. Where is the building located? Ugh, we just went through that, right? Pete's on 4th. Yeah, dystopian. Granted, it's a few blocks away, but This pricing strategy mirrors a common challenge appraisers encounter when reviewing sales transactions or proposed listings. Comparable sales selected from superior or more established submarkets to support an optimistic value conclusion. If you're in a crappy neighborhood and you basically take the same unit that is located 2 miles away, hey, magically, you get that value up. What do you know? Doesn't that work out great? Average price reductions required on closed sales average $274,000 from original list price per unit, and prolonged adverse listing history on the unsold inventory further demonstrate concentrated external obsolescence within an already challenged submarket. Why do we use such big, confusing words in appraising? Well, because we gotta justify our SRAs, right? Oh, we're so fancy. We know so much stuff. This is a massive project in a terrible location that does not support the current price level at all. And in order to move this inventory, they've got to absolutely slash the pricing to the bone. And I think that what they're doing right now is basically testing out the market levels. They've brought it down to what they think. Okay, let's hope that this does it. Does this move the needle? And at those prices, maybe, but then you still got to live there. Maybe it's an investment property that you only go to for a few times a year, But why would you choose Portland over, say, a Seattle or a San Francisco or an LA? Okay, because you get to the coast in an hour and, it's beautiful there. All right. But are you going to buy a $600,000 one bedroom in order to do that? You've got plenty of other options that are much cheaper, that don't have the HOA dues. You know what I mean? That probably make more sense. But if you need in your life, I've just bought a unit in downtown Portland at the Ritz Carlton. If that floats your boat, maybe this drop, maybe a 50% price drop makes sense. Maybe it gets you there. Maybe it actually turns the corner for this project. Unless I looked at all of the listings, it's hard to say if this will do it. Because even if you do look at all the listings and pending sales and closed sales, doesn't really mean anything, because the Ritz Carlton is such an anomaly. It's such an upper end, premium price brand name. It's like a, I don't know what the most expensive luxury clothing brand would be, but you know what I mean. Louis Vuitton. It's like Louis Vuitton versus Costco. You can't really compare it. They're not similar. Yeah, they're both bags. But the woman's clutch or whatever the F those things are, right? One's $5,000 and one's $25. And you're like, yeah, but they still hold a bunch of stuff that the woman just kind of, it's in here somewhere, right? It's like that. You don't have a real data point in downtown Portland of what these units would sell for, because you have no data that's right there that you can say, yeah, well, that unit in that project, which is pretty similar, those sold for that. So 50% reduction, maybe it takes more. Maybe they got to go 70%, 60%. Who knows? I'm going to go through one more kind of little sub issue, which is a major problem if you've already bought one of these units, or if you've bought a unit in any project that has massive price reductions. The January 2026 price repositioning, love how they do that. You had a drop. What happened? We had a price repositioning. We had a price improvement on these units by 50%. Oh, may improve absorption at levels, sales, more aligned with neighborhood norms. Downtown Portland. However, the influx of discounted intra-building comparable sales comps in the project could create reconciliation challenges for appraisals of the existing 11 ownerships, meaning if they go to refinance, they had a 50% drop in value. Oof, ouch. Oh, pucker up. Particularly the 8 early exclusive buyers who closed near original asks. Ugh, not good. Not good. What will these things actually sell for? Make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell, and I'll tell you. Thanks so much for being here. We'll catch up soon. Talk then. Bye for now.